I'm sending a message to these Texas-based companies that have made the very same mistake with regard to Texas laws. We have American Airlines, we have AT&T, we have Dell Computers, and we have others who have taken a position against the election law reforms we made in the state of Texas, where the CEOs of these companies and the leaders of these companies admitted they had no idea what the Texas law said or what the Texas proposed laws say before taking a position against it. They need to stay out of politics, especially when they have no clue what they're talking about.
Texas Governor Greg Abbott refusing to throw out the first pitch at the Rangers home opener last night, protesting Major League Baseball's decision to pull this summer's All-Star game out of Atlanta over Georgia's new voting laws. Now, Texas is considering a similar bill, and corporations there are now going head-to-head with the GOP. NBCNews.com senior political reporter Jane Timm joining me now. Jane, Governor Abbott saying there are false political narratives about these voting bills. Here's what Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick said about the Texas bill at a press conference today.
Nothing has changed for mail-in ballots, Election Day, or early voting. And anyone who says different is lying to you, whether they write with a pen, talk with a microphone, or hold political office.
All right, so Jane, you are one part senior political reporter, one part friendly fact checker. Fact check this for us here. Is that accurate? What does this Texas voting bill actually do?
You know, Republicans like to argue that the law was just sort of tightening up things and stopping unintended consequences. But for actual voters who live in Texas, especially in large counties like Harris County, which has Houston, the law is going to change if this bill becomes law. Changing early voting. Overnight early voting is banned by SB 7, as well as sort of drive-through early voting, all sort of new innovations that were brought about because of the pandemic, but made it easier for people who have, say, shift workers, frontline employees, who more often are people from communities of color. These are voters who benefited from options, and those options are no longer going to be there.
So, Jane, when will the Texas legislature vote on those bills, SB 7 and HB 6? Are those votes scheduled yet?
So HB 6 could see a committee vote as early as Thursday. That's the one that I'm watching to see how much lawmakers are going to move on this. You know what I mean? They may, puff their chest out and talk about this a lot, but whether they're going to advance these bills through the legislature is another matter, and what they look like when they advance. SB 7 now goes into the House for committee hearings. What it comes out after those committee hearings, what it looks like, that's a real test here as well.
All right, so Jane, let's talk about the corporate reaction here. Why are companies going toe-to-toe with Republicans right now? Are they simply just no longer willing to sit on the sidelines of these socio-political issues? What's going on?
You know, it's really interesting. I spent the weekend talking with business interests and advocates and sort of said, why now? Why is this past week the one where voter suppression somehow became really bad for business? And they all said, they spent a year in 2020 speaking out about civil rights, vowing to listen more to the Black community. And when Black businessmen last week said, this is the moment that you need to stand up and you need to speak out, they said, okay, we're ready, and came forward. I will note that a lot of these statements are not particularly partisan. They say things like, we oppose voter suppression. They're largely like statements of, affirmations of the 14th and 15th Amendment. The idea that it should be possible for all communities to have fair access to the ballot. Not radical statements, but of course, this is becoming a fight because of what the GOP is doing in many of these states.
Jane Timm, always great to see you, both as senior political reporter and friendly fact checker. You're the best. We appreciate you.
Thanks, Allison.
Hey, NBC News viewers, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here, and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.